A huge 1 year's worth of subscriptions was donated on Patreon by Grindstone Coffee and Donuts, and I'm very thankful for the dedication to the channel. In all honesty, the Edge of Eternity set has been doing pretty poorly on the channel. I prefer my Magic the Gathering to stay high fantasy as opposed to sci-fi, and it might be that a lot of the viewers are feeling the same way. So I've decided to go back a set to the Final Fantasy 16's Clive Ifrit's Dominant. I've already made a video for this one, but did not make a deck tech I don't think, so we'll go over this quickly. This is a mono red devotion list. We want to get as many red pips into play as possible, drop Clive, discard our hand of stuff we don't want, and draw equal to the devotion. It can transform into Ifrit. I don't think I've ever had to do that though. We get too much value off our commander. So with our commander being a wheel, we've got some discard matters stuff, some of which is going to get plus counters when it sees something discarded. In this case we can get some impulse draw, get an exile card off the top. Glinthorn Buccaneer deals a lot of damage whenever it sees rummaging and discards and the like. Same with the Magmakin Artillerist. Surly Badgersaw cares about the types of cards that you discard. It could be a plus counter, a fight, or a treasure token with this. Monument of Endurance gives your choice of a draw, a treasure, or each opponent loses 3. So while we've got discard matters on the brain, we might as well go over some of the card draw effects. Bitter Reunion, a rummage, so it does discard, as does Fear of Missing Out. This is a haste enabler as well, and you'll notice that a lot of our effects are on permanence so that we can get the devotion up. Brass's Tunnel Grinder is a selective wheel. Count on Luck is impulse draw, so doesn't play into the rummage effects, but it does have triple red devotion, so well worth including for that alone. More bodies that enter and rummage us. Seasoned Pyromancer makes tokens as well. GF Ifrit from Final Fantasy VIII. Tersa Light Shatter, Cavalier of Flames, all these are going to be upping our devotion of course. And then some big boys, couple of dinosaurs count as card advantage for us. Atali we can steal stuff with, and Trumpeting Carnosaur gets a free spell upon entry, and like I keep saying, even if we don't get anything good from these types of effects, they're at least adding devotion to the board. Got some means of haste for said creatures as well. Hammer of Perforos, Rising of the Day, and Urabrask. That is going to hurt our opponents by having the creatures come into play tapped as well. And then I decided to lean quite a bit into Burn, because it leaves a decent number of red permanents in play for us, as well as controlling the board. And so with the burn we have additional damage to be dealt. There's Torbran, 3 pips on that, so well worth throwing in here. Twin Flame Tyrant for double damage, Fiery Emancipation and City on Fire. Both give 3 additional pips and give us triple damage. And so with effects like this, goes well with the pingers. Kedis does count as burn. If we hit an opponent with the commander, the other players will take damage, and that might even be tripled with the effects that we just saw. The Needlehead, Draw Pain, again we're planning on it being more than just 1. Same for Defiler of Instinct. Mogmob can deal 1 damage to 3 different permanents, or 3 different targets actually, so we can point this at players and planeswalkers. Goblin Chainwhirler, imagine you get this down and you've got triple damage. You are lightning bolting all of your opponents and each creature they control. Terror of the Peaks probably just goes in any red deck near enough. We've even got a devotion spell here. Fanatic of Mogis should be dealing a lot of damage to each opponent. So anyway, it's burn, you get the idea. We just want to be dealing damage to our opponent's stuff. But once our commander's in play, it's not too easy to recast it unless we want to flip it round and wait for it to be exiled and re-enter. It's going to be a lot quicker to make use of Flicker, so land ramp not too easy in mono red either. We'll make use of both of those effects we're lacking on with Sword of Hearth and Home. Conjurer's Closet flickers at the end of the turn as well. And after that I think it's just ramp. Nykthos is a devotion card as well, was introduced along with the devotion mechanic back in the day. Of course in this section as well we want additional red devotion, so Runaway Steamkin. In a mono red deck, it's surprising how much this will mount up, and we'll be able to make mana with it or just run in and hit someone. Wily Goblin, near enough pace for itself, but well worth it for 2 mana devotion. Bergie makes red mana when we cast stuff, and we could even, in a pinch, make use of the Harnfell, Horn of Bounty, because that is discard to get some impulse draw. We saw the discard matters stuff previously. Couple of mana rocks that have red pips on them, and then a few means of treasure creators as well. Professional Facebreaker, the Copper Dragon, the Goldspan Dragon will double up the mana from those. Fire Crystal is like the Ruby Medallion, except it has red pips on it. and we can create a token of a creature with that if we want to. Something like the Goldspan Dragon or the Ancient Copper Dragon could be useful. Nyx Lotus, more red devotion, and Gauntlet of Might we have to be wary of. It is doubling the mana, but it does it for every mountain in play. And Throne of Eldraine here can not only tap for 4 mana as soon as you play it for 5, but it can also draw you cards over the course of the game. So that's it, there's no combos in the list or anything like that. It is just control the board, play Clive as much as you can, draw as many cards, keep your hand full. It's amazing how many cards red can actually draw when it comes to devotion in this instance. Let's see if we can give our opponents a bit of a headache. Plenty of ramp in our opening hand, and we've got some decent devotion with the count on luck as well, so I think we'll try this. Rampant Growth for the Rocco player. We're up against Dina, Soul Steeper, Jeleva and Rocco. Best to go for Cracking the Wayfarer's Bauble here over the Arcane Signet because they both cost 2 mana, but the Bauble brings in a tapped piece of mana. Throwing out Witch's Oven this early, nothing to sacrifice into it. Direfleet Daredevil for Jeleva. I'm guessing it's going after the Rampant Growth. Although they don't get the spell for free, do they? They do have to pay for it, so not sure what the aim is there. Rocco is the first commander to hit play at 1 into X. Searches out Norin the Wary. So that's going to be bouncing in and out of play for the rest of the game. A City on Fire for us. We're going for a Rock into Count on Luck. A Cultivate for Dina. Kitesail Larcenist. We'll switch off the Rocco. So that, now a treasure token. Switches off the Witch's Oven as well. And his own Direfleet Daredevil. So I wanted to just use this to ramp maybe. I think we have to suppose that this is a Pirate Tribal list for the Jeleva player, which would be interesting. Skyclave Apparition. Hopefully, you have to assume that goes after the Larcenist so we can get his commander back maybe. Might go after our Devotion though. I think there's like CEDH builds of this, but I don't really know. I can't remember what you do with Rocco, to be honest. It's been an age since I played it. Okay, decided not to exile anything weirdly. Not sure why he played it then. Get our first impulse draw from the enchantment, which shows us Twin Flame Tyrant, and we draw into another land, so we're going to have to... How long do we have with this? We can only play it this turn, so I think I want to try and get this down. Test our opponents on some more removal. Oh, we turned our Arcane Signet into a treasure as well, so use our lands. Dina comes down for the first time, and enchants that with a Karametra's Favour, so draws a card and turns this into a Mana Dork. Followed that up with Disciple of the Vault, so that's going to be good hate against treasure. We have seen this in previous videos before. Treasure is rife throughout Commander now, and this doesn't get anywhere near enough play into it. Suppose you need the right deck for it though. Jeleva into play for the first time, so we'll exile some cards off the top here. Got off us an Evora, Terror of the Peaks, Conjurer's Closet, and Throne of Eldraine, some good cards. Nahiri's Resolve, and that can exile a number of non-token artifacts or creatures, which is interesting. That does include his Rocco at the moment, because it is a treasure, but it's not a token. Although this is a cast trigger, so even if he flickered it, he wouldn't be able to tutor anything for 0. Put underneath Jeleva, by the way, a Demonic Tutor. You have to assume he's going to flicker the Apparition to get rid of Jeleva, to also get rid of that Demonic Tutor. Decides to flicker the Rocco. We impulse draw again, showing our opponents a Summon Ifrit. And I think we need to Windmill Slam the Nykthos into play for definite. The client is starting to slow down on us. Alright, just had to restart the client, get down the Nykthos, or Windmill Slam that. And then we make Devotion of 5. Yeah, it'd be nice to get down the City on Fire, but we've got double damage anyway, so let's just go for our commander here. So we discard our hand, we'll draw 3 plus 4 is 7. And then we could go for Haste onto everything. With Hammer of Perforos, I think that might be okay. I have to trade out a rock to do it, but I think it's worth it here. Disciple of the Vault triggers on a treasure for the first time. Decides to point that over to the right against Rocco. And so now we've got Haste and a bit more Devotion. Let's swing straight down the middle, encourage our opponent to make some blocks. He's going to take 10 commander damage here if he's not careful. I'm worried about that Demonic Tutor that he's got available. The Pirates player really thinking here. Well, we're still waiting on him. He could easily just block our commander with this and then just take the 6 from the dragon? I mean, I don't see it being that big a deal. Yep, decides to run away at the first hurdle. Social Climber. Whenever another creature you control enters, gain a life. One of the rare green Soul Sisters. And there's a Demolition Field being used onto our Nykthos straight away. So that'll be replaced with a Mountain. Nahiri's Resolve will trigger and bring the commander back. Frodo Baggins. Going to be tempted by the ring whenever legends enter. That goes well with Norrin the Wary. And it has to be blocked as long as it's the ring bearer. Frodo Baggins is the ring bearer and swings in at us. Decides to protect the Frodo Baggins underneath the Nahiri's Resolve here. Count on Luck is still in play. Okay, and we see Defiler of Instinct. I was hoping to get down the Fiery Emancipation here, but with double damage on a Defiler of Instinct, I think that's good enough to throw down. 2 cards in the Naya player's hand. Let's go for Phyrexian Life and a red into the Wily Goblin. That will allow us to trigger the Defiler, and the Wily Goblin's near enough free thanks to the treasure when it enters. Shoot the Skyclave Apparition, which never really did anything for some reason. Okay, a White Mane Lion can bounce it back to hand, but at least this isn't being cast infinitely and bouncing itself back to hand over and over again. So we'll see if we can still get rid of that. Treasure token from the Goblin, like we said. And we can make Seasoned Pyromancer a 2-mana creature and use that to shoot the White Mane Lion. So down that goes, 1 damage doubled up to 2, deals with the 2 toughness. So don't manage to clear his board, unfortunately. But I think here we can get rid of our 2 removal cards and pray that it doesn't bite us. Okay, just clear 2 lands off the top. So let's swing in for a bunch of double damage. Still haven't managed to get down the Fiery Emancipation. Obviously, if we'd kept the Nykthos, we might have had a better chance of getting that down. Just turning sideways with everything to the right. I imagine the Skyclave Apparition takes this out next turn. Decides to block the 2-2. So we managed to smack our opponent down to 7 life, and he loses out on his commander. We lose out on the Seasoned Pyromancer, but we can make some more elementals from the bin at least. Reclamation Sage is probably going to go after Count on Luck, most likely. Maybe the Haste Enabler, argument for Nahiri's Resolve as well. Yeah, goes after the Haste for us. So an artifact died, and the Disciple is pointed at us. The Frodo is going to come back into play. Then recasting the Skyclave Apparition, likely going after the Defiler. At the moment he still loses to the Dragon in the air. Yep, so exiles this. Champion of Lambhole isn't going to do him much good. He is now level 2 on the ring though, since Frodo re-entered, so he does get a loot. And swings in at us with that. Discard Search for Tomorrow into that. We go down to 30. Now if he wants to protect the Skyclave Apparition to try and exile something else, we will get a token at least. He decides against exiling anything underneath the enchantment. And Norrin has re-entered into the Frodo, so we'll level up the ring again. He's got 1 card left, so he could have some removal on the dragon. That is a Suplex we just exiled off the top, and a Bitter Reunion for some more rummage. I think we go through to combat first. Not entirely against my commander going down here. So let's go to the right and swing everything else into the left. Try and force him to make some chump blocks. Okay, a Death Sprout onto the double damage, so yeah, the Naya player survives. That would have been the argument for getting down Fiery Emancipation before combat. I think I might surprise my opponents with it next turn. Just decides to chump our commander and take all the other hits, and then sacrifices Rex Sage for a food token. So the Naya player makes it through another turn. Let's go for the Brass's Tunnel Grinder, I think. And we'll discard 3 cards, risk getting rid of the Haste Enabler. I'm assuming we're going to draw into another land here when we draw 4 cards. We do. So let's go Urza's Cave. That can be the Valor Cut, which means we can afford Suplex. I don't trust that this is in play. I'm tempted to bolt this, but this has combo potential, so I'm going to exile it. And hopefully next turn, with our Valor Cut, we'll be able to deal with this player quite easily. Eternal Witness for the Golgari player. And he decides on the Rex Sage, which he can recast this turn. He does recast it, probably on the Count on Luck. No, instead on the Tunnel Grinder. We're a ways away from that flipping into a land, so that's fine. We might decide to continue pecking away at the Naya player with the Disciple. Nope, points it at us, but each opponent does lose a life thanks to the Dina, after gaining life from the Soul Sister of course. Decides against attacking us, so we'll be taking more damage on this turn cycle than I would have liked. The Champion of Lambhawk going to be more relevant than we assumed, and this is where he might regret not flickering anything with the Nahiri's Resolve. Only one card in hand. Druid of Purification. Starting with you, each player may choose an artifact or enchantment you don't control. Destroy each permanent chosen this way. So I'm just going to crack the Urza's Cave now, just in case we lose this treasure token. The Disciple is pointed to the right, thanks to us sacrificing the treasure. A food is sacrificed as well, again pointed over there. He has lost damage over here, so he seems to be eager to get rid of him all of a sudden. Remember that damage that he just pointed at us? He's got the Naya player down to 1, so we are definitely tutoring out the Valor Cup. There's only one thing we can choose here, so we'll go after the Favour, and we lose out on even more devotion. Plenty of damage, probably swinging in towards us. 3, 9, 12 and 14, but that does mean that he's tapping out, so he'll go down to one of our elemental tokens. Each opponent loses 3 life because it dealt damage to us, so we go down to 9. And Norin's going to re-enter. It can't block because it's going to run away as soon as we swing in. So I think it's time to just swing straight into the right. Like I said, they can't block with Norin because it goes into exile straight away. And that player goes down a turn later, and a lot of damage to us later as well. So Fiery Emancipation. Play a Mountain. Now, do we start going after the life total yet, or do we deal with the creatures he's got in play? He might be able to get a lot of creatures down, but he may be able to get a lot of treasure down as well, or artifacts of some kind, so a bit of a tricky one. I'll go after the life gainer, and then the Mog Mob can clean up the rest of the board if needs be. Going to gain life with the Jungle Hollow, we will let that resolve. That will have us lose 1 life to Dina. A Morbid Curiosity. Draw cards equal to the mana value of the sacrificed creature. He sacrificed the E-Witness, so draws 3. We don't have lethal on him, I don't think, even if we can get rid of all these creatures. Decides to give us another turn. And that is a Kedis, a little bit useless, but could be a blocker at least. Play a Mountain. Let's bolt. Maybe should have done this after combat to see how they block. They can easily recast Dina is the thing, but we're going to have to rely on combat, so get rid of Dina. Still got 5 cards in hand over there. Might be able to put him in a position where he has to get rid of Clive. Alright, has more removal. So Fire Emancipation, let's just get rid of his board then. So that'll be a lightning bolt on each of his creatures and his face. Once we sacrifice the Mog Mob. And Valakut is still a lightning bolt, so it still gets rid of Dina. Still got 4 cards in hand over there. Let's risk swinging in with everything. He might have some kind of haste, but it's more likely to combo off out of nowhere, I think. And then we could be playing into a board wipe, but I'm just going to go for exiling this now, so that we can try to start swinging in next turn with our double and triple damage gone on multiple occasions. I'm not sure if we're going to be able to do this or not. Like I said, we could be forcing him to kill off the Clive and then we can actually draw some more cards. But our opponent seems to have the advantage on us. Probably going to have to look at transforming Clive soon, as slow as that'll be. Maybe should have done it last turn. A Sanguine Bond. We've got rid of his life gain, thankfully. Replays Dina, which we can lightning bolt out of the way. And there's Professional Facebreaker. We can exile a treasure to impulse draw, so it might be worth doing. Let's lightning bolt Dina. Could transform Clive, like I said, but the issue being that maybe I could have done it this turn to get rid of Dina. Making a few mistakes here. Let's just play the Professional Facebreaker and swing him. Could be a few turns ahead on limit breaking this and then getting it back into play with Devotion. But we'll have them down to 19 at least, 10 points of commander. Only 1 opponent to deal damage to, so only 1 treasure. And we can only play it this turn, so potentially a bit of a risk. But we've got 8 mana held up. That is Monument of Endurance, we might as well get it down. Alright, and our opponent decides to scoop it up, so clearly didn't have anything for us. We didn't really have anything all that incredible lined up. I've been kicked out into the lobby now, so I can't show you. The Cavalier, not all that great when you have an empty hand and can't rummage anything away. If he replays his commander or any creature, we probably just fight it and turn Clive into Ifrit, which I've never actually done in this list. This is heavily based on devotion and being able to wheel with Clive. That's what puts our opponents in such a tricky spot. They don't want to remove Clive because we don't mind recasting him. So yeah, a bit clunky at the end there, but managed to pull off the victory. Not the best Clive showing, but hopefully you all enjoyed it anyway. Big thank you to the patrons for supporting me on this channel, and you can do so yourself via the link in the description if you would like. I'm Tribal Kai. Thank you for watching.